fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to round number of 11 of the Aussie Driver Search iRacing V8 Supercars official series here on the iRacing Esports Network, proudly presented this evening by SimSpeed TV. As I said, we are here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada, where it's going to be a very, once again, talented starred field, and we have many drivers who saw the track yesterday for the first round of V8 Scops, which was at this track, 250 kilometer race, which saw just tons of fantastic racing, but also quite a lot of tragedy for many of the main championship contenders, or people who we would expect to be championship contenders. But tonight is a brand new night. It's a completely different series, and it's going to be a night of fantastic racing, as we have not been disappointed a single Monday night so far. Joining me up in the commentary booth this evening is Cameron Dance, and bringing us these beautiful pictures from beautiful Montreal, Canada, is Jay Kennedy in the director's booth, as we're having a nice overhead shot looking down into the hairpin there. Unfortunately, no cars coming in there at the moment, but we do expect to see some action there later. So we're now having a look at Jack Boyd just sliding his way through the final chicane at this track, and coming across the line for a 1:35.6, which will put him up into 12th position. But Cameron, we saw a very interesting race yesterday in the Scops strength of field split one, and a big talking point of that night was slowdowns here at Montreal.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very chaotic race on numerous occasions last night. So, and like you said, slowdowns is one of the big talking points at Montreal. It's very, very easy to be a little bit too eager and aggressive over the curbs through the chicanes, and just putting your wheels a little bit, just an inch or so too far over, you get quite a hefty slowdown. So you're going to want to try and minimize that to obviously not lose too many positions and obviously not lose too much time.
Yeah, absolutely. I was one of the many drivers who failed to qualify for the Scops field on the weekend, and put in a fair few laps, and I have to say myself that I feel that the iRacing could probably tone back some of the slowdowns on this track for the V8, but that's only because these cars love the curbs so much, and it just doesn't quite feel right taking that chicane in such a I guess undramatic fashion. Luke Page taking a little bit of drama to the track though, getting up on two wheels as he came through that final chicane. Unfortunately for him, not able to go higher than 23rd position at the moment. We do have some very tight times up the top of the field at the moment. It's Logitech G Altus Esports 1 and 2 with Dane Warren and Sam Blacklock. Brett Loxton tucked in with Jake Burton very closely behind them. James Mackey coming across the line now in the CMR team car. He's currently 15th, and that time, unfortunately for him, just a couple of hundred slower than his previous lap and not able to improve. Andrew Gilliam, a man who has been impressing us the last few rounds in his Pursuit Sim Sports car, coming through that very difficult section of track in this V8 Supercar. So difficult to get the traction down, and he's just out there to gain a little bit of track knowledge for the beginning of this race, which will start very shortly. And the man who will be looking down into turn 1 ahead of everybody else is Mr. Dane Warren. He'll be joined alongside teammate Sam Blacklock, both in the Logitech G Altus Esports cars. Brett Loxton in the KRF Motorsports machine will line up alongside Jake Burton in 4th position. Brady Myers for TTL Esports in 5th, alongside Ethan Warren in the Astro Gaming Altus Esports car. Marlon McMullen for CMR team, the first one of his team up on the grid. Cooper Webster for Evolution Racing Team, who had a good outing yesterday, starting in 8th. Jackson Suslan Harlow up there for TTL Esports, and James Scott will round out the top 10.
Back just outside the top 10, we've got Chris Cox here, followed by Jack Boyd in 12th, 13th to 14th, Andrew Gilliam and Luke Harvey, followed by James McKee and Corey Preston, 15th, 16th respectively, 17th and 18th to Scott Soslowski and Michael Taljancic, and then rounding out the top 20 is Brian Borg and Greg Sharp.
And to take us through the rest of this 31 vehicle field this evening, James Duckworth starting from 21st position. Good to see Thomas Hinz up in 22nd. Luke Page in 23rd. Damian Johnston will start from 24th position. Mitchell McLeod always fighting through these strength of fields in 25th position. He'll be making up a few positions. Tyson Williams will start from 26th. Zach Baker in 27th. Job Stewart, Tyler Blackburn, Christian Smart, and Mario Vlasic, the only one of our drivers not able to set a time this evening. And we are expecting a 31-lap race here this evening. We will require one stop. Now, I think these cars use about 4 litres per lap, so we can expect cars coming in as early as possibly lap 10 and as late as around lap 20 to 21. Fairly cool track temperature as well, so tyre wear will not be as much of an issue for some of these drivers who are maybe a little less kind on their rear tyres as they struggle to put down the 600 odd horsepower in these V8 supercars. Looking now at Dane Warren, who waits eagerly for the starters' orders. The revs are rising, and he is away. The green flag has dropped, and a good start from both the Logitech G Altus Esports cars there. Ethan Warren as well in the Astro Gaming Altus Esports car, getting a good start as he tries to work his way up onto the back and go down the inside into turn number 2 there. Going to get squeezed a little bit as cars go 2 by 2, and that's a car round in the background. Hard to see who that was there. I think that was KRF engineer Luke Page, who started 23rd, so not a good start for Luke as they make their way through the first part of this track. Cooper Webster there going side by side as they come down into turn number 4 or 5, and he's just going to make that work. Going to be a drag race now as they come down into the chicane under the bridge. Cooper Webster just getting cut off there by Marlon McMullen as he doesn't want to give up his track position at this point in time. Already losing a bit of a gap though, this little squabble, and they're going to have to sort themselves out pretty quickly. Big train starting to form now behind Marlon McMullen as he fights with Cooper Webster here, but Dane Warren, man out front at the moment. I think that was 2 by 2 as they come into the hairpin, and it looks like Jackson Suslan Harlow might try and get in on the action as well. Doesn't quite have the traction coming out of that corner and has to tuck back in behind Cooper Webster. But James Scott having a little bit of a look behind as well. He's searching for a bit of room there, and that's a TTR car. Pardon me, that's Corey Preston in the JMSR racing car, and he's going side by side with Luke Gilliam, who looked to cut quite a lot of the inside curb there at the first part of that chicane. Corey Preston running out of room on the exit of that corner, but a pretty good start from these guys. They're obviously well in practice. That's a slow car down the straight though, and I think that's Mitchell McLeod in the Talking Entry who's gotten a slow down there, but bar that, very good start from all 31 cars here.
Yes, so far everybody's managed to get through pretty cleanly. That top 6 group has broken away quite a bit from the rest of the field, which consists of McMullen, Webster, Susan Harlow, and the rest of them. It's pretty much all on for the top 6 at the moment, but that battle pack, like we were talking about earlier with McMullen, Webster, Susan Harlow, and James Scott as well, it's going to be interesting. But Job Stewart is around in, I believe, the second chicane. As we're going to get a quick Motum Simulations replay as well.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Job there, having a battle there with Zach Baker, and so they're coming down very difficult section of the track, down the inside there nicely, ran a little bit wide as he was coming through that corner, and had to check up a couple of cars there, but looks like he ran out of racing room there playing with Zach Baker, and ultimately paid the consequence. Unfortunate for him. Now got a lot of work to do from the back of the field. Cooper Webster's had something happen to him as well, because he's sitting well down the order. He was up fighting with Marlon McMullen, and he is now back in 15th position around Mark Taliantich, so he must have had a slowdown.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did actually get a slowdown in the second chicane, or third chicane, sorry, as he's going to go up the inside for a move at the moment live. But yeah, he looked to just taking a little bit too much coupe through that third chicane. It's cost him quite a bit, unfortunately. He's dropped down the order, but with the pace he's got, shouldn't have too much trouble catching back up to that pack he was in.
Yeah, we just got a Motum Simulation replay of that incident for Cooper Webster, just taking a little bit of the entry curb too aggressively, as he's now going for a move on Michael Taliantich, who defends very heavily. Doesn't want to let that ERT machine by at all, but looks like it's going to be pretty inevitable. As you said, Cameron, Cooper Webster showing some fantastic pace in that car at the moment. He's now having a little bit of a look around Michael as they come into that section chicane, and Cooper Webster doesn't seem too deterred by the fact that he got a slow down the last time round. He's still taking a good, healthy amount of the inside curve. Meanwhile, another driver who impressed, Scott Sedlowski, looking behind at the battle up ahead, and he might just have something to do with this. Michael Taliantich watching the inside mirror and just cutting a little close for comfort there for Scott Sedlowski. He probably had to back out of that a little bit, but Cooper Webster very tight, got the job done, and now looks up the road to Luke Harvey in the Ace Tennis Machine, just looking up at the front of the field now, and Jake Burton still hot on the heels of Sam Blacklock up the front of the field in third position, but he's got Brett Loxton in the KRF Motorsports entry sitting just behind him, and Brett Loxton was looking very racy yesterday, qualified second in the Scops race, and showed some extremely good pace throughout that race. So we'll have to see if he's able to turn a little more car speed onto the track tonight and get past that car of Jake Burton, who is following him very closely at the moment. And didn't actually talk much about the championship standings coming into this, Cameron. We didn't have an opportunity to, but Dane Warren currently leading this championship ahead of Brady Myers and Marlon McMullen. So Marlon McMullen really has quite a big gap at the moment, 6 places down on his championship rival Dane Warren, and 7 seconds behind on the road, so he's got a little bit of work to do. And Brady Myers also sitting down there in 5th position, so it's very much on for the championship. At the moment, there is only 50 points separating those 3 aforementioned drivers, and they are all currently running within the top 10 at the moment. So championship very healthy after 7 rounds at the moment, but Brady Myers and Marlon McMullen are really going to have to pick up their game if they're going to try and catch Dane Warren at the moment, who's looking very strong at the front of this field as Brett Loxton continues to apply pressure to Jake Burton here.
Yeah, absolutely. That championship battle was actually very close, and with about 233 points up for grabs for the win tonight, with a strength of field of 3,785, so struggled to English there, but yeah, there's quite a bit of points on offer, and looking at where Brady and Marlon both are, that's going to cost them massively in the championship, especially getting into the last round next week.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. There is not much time left in this championship, and not much in it at all, so all these drivers really need to be at the top of their game, and they are driving very well at the moment. Obviously, as we said, everyone in extremely good practice from yesterday's race, I honestly can only see possibly one or two names in this field that I did not see racing yesterday. So everyone is kind of here for a bit of a round two. A lot of moves were put on yesterday and a lot of cards were dealt out. So people are going to be more wary of some of these possible attacks, but really does seem like the hairpin is one of the strongest places to get a move done without a mistake. And all these drivers driving within such fine limits at the moment. Does only take one minor incorrect application of the throttle, just moving over to the track a centimetre too wide, just catching a little bit of grass, or even just pinching a brake, especially a rear brake in one of these V8 supercars, can lose you a couple of tenths. All these drivers, though, keeping it well within their limits at the moment. Sam Blacklock starting to fall away from his teammate at the moment and just falling into the clutches of Jake Burton ever so gingerly in the last couple of laps. But Burton does seem to be picking up the pace a little bit, possibly with that a pressure that is being applied from behind of Brett Loxton. As we said, we saw good pace from both those guys yesterday. Sam probably had a race that he would rather forget, looking for a bit of redemption here, but he's going to have to pick up some more pace in that car. And there's Cooper Webster around at the, I think that's at turn 5 and 6, the second chicane. So we'll get a modem simulation replay of that for you so we can understand what has transpired for Cooper Webster, fighting very hard with Luke Harvey there, and down into the braking zone, went down the inside, little bit of a rub here on the middle of the corner there, and possibly just a little bit of netcode contact as well. They were rubbing a little bit through that corner as well. So that's racing though, especially in these V8 supercars. These boys are not afraid to hang around and get the panels dirty on each other. While we look back from Sam Blacklock towards behind to Jake Burton, who's getting very close now, and Brett Loxton still tucked up behind him, just struggling a little bit now, falling off ever so slightly, and you can see that gap from Blacklock to Burton really come down, and he's going to be feeling this pressure very shortly.
Yeah, you definitely will. Burton's not a slow driver, we know that for a fact. Done very, very well for himself on numerous occasions in Scops and also in the Toyota 86 series and for Aussie Driver Search in real life. So it's going to be interesting to see how well Blacklock can hold off. We both fairly good drivers, both former teammates as well. So going to be probably no love lost here, that's for sure.
Yeah, I suspect that could very well be the case. I don't mind getting the elbows out a little bit with the ERT boys. It's good to play with your old teammates, but there's always that underlying, and Sam's just locked up there as he goes into the hairpin. He's going to have possibly some time to recover this down the straight. He got a good exit. Obviously running wider means that you get more momentum on the exit to the corner. He's going to push Jake Burton as they come through the kink there, unsettling that car massively. And we said that they weren't afraid to have a little bit of a biffo. Well, that's evidence as much as you can show it right there. And both of them, thankfully though, making to see it through the other side of that transaction. And Jake Burton is the man that comes out on top. So bit of a relatively unforced but slightly forced error there for Sam Blacklock. And you can see he's still got some pace in that car. He does not want to give up that track. Harlow gets comes under attack there from Marlon McMullen, or trying to get the move done but can't quite make it work. And so now Sam Blacklock's just got to sell himself, try and get position back, but also defend from an ever lingering Brett Loxton as well.
Yeah, and Loxton's just sitting there. He's not really pushing too hard. He's just sitting there, just keeping the pace up so he can keep up, but then also save tyres, save fuel, and not overdo it and end up costing himself a possible podium should the two ahead of him of Blacklock and Burton come together at some point, which could really throw this championship up, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, but two guys that may come together if they get much closer than that, James Duckworth and Tyson Williams, having a little bit of a scrap further back in this field. And Duckworth just struggling to get the traction down as he came out of that chicane there, and it's going to be a bit of a tragedy here, and that Trick SimSpeed, I think that Scott Solosky might get caught up in that as well, and that is, yeah, that's an interesting incident. Have to get a modem simulation replay to really have a bit of a better look at that one. So a little bit of racing as they came through this chicane here, and as I said, James Duckworth didn't get the best exit here. Now, he goes to defend the right-hand side. Tyson Williams goes along with him. They've also got Scott Solosky there, so it's a bit clumsy from both of those guys. And an unfortunate spot on the track for that to happen. Luckily, though, they're both able to continue. And Scott Solosky, he looks like he was traveling pretty slowly. So I think that he was clearing a slowdown. Those guys are coming in absolutely hot. They've all met in the middle, and it's been very awkward for all three of those drivers. So probably, yeah, something for them all to keep in mind for another event. At the moment, though, Marlon McMullen continuing to charge his way through this field, and he's got some great pace in that car at the moment. He's caught up to Ethan Warren, who's been sitting a little bit in no man's land for a while in 6th position. Looks like he's missing a little bit of the front of that Holden Commodore of his, and could possibly be losing a little bit of pace because of that. Ethan Warren has been considerably slower than the cars up ahead of him the last couple of laps, and he's been losing close to half a second a lap to McMullen for the last couple of rotations as well, and he's looking very strong as they come down the straight here, and you can see that asphalt, he's going on the grass. He's going to go down for a move down the inside. He's going to just pull it up. He might get a little bit of a rub on the exit here, but I want to think that the damage on that car is just killing his straight line speed, and he's going to squeeze Jackson Suslin Harlow to the outside of the track as well, and Ethan lost it. He's lost it coming in, and I don't know if Jackson Suslin Harlow went off there kind of in a, well, or if he was taking some evasive action there. Both of them have managed, and they'll continue on, but Ethan Warren has to clear his slowdown. He dives out of the way as to not get a black flag, and it just goes from bad to worse in there.
Yeah, actually looked like Jacobson was having to brake on the grass there from getting squeezed by Ethan there, so did really, really well to actually pull it up and not go too far off the road when into turn 1. So really, really good driving there from the youngster, but yeah, really unfortunate for Ethan Warren as he's dropped well and truly down the order now. He's just behind Andrew Gilliam, so sitting in pretty much the position at this point.
And we look up towards the lead of the field, because in this little 4-car train now, the man who's been plugging away very silently, but in a very aggressive manner, is Brady Myers, because he has been catching the group up ahead of him at close to 0.3 of a second per lap. And Dane Warren as well out the front of this field. His last was very fast compared to the one that he did before. I think he got a slowdown on the lap previously, and he's now picked up the pace. But Brady Myers has picked it up even harder. So currently the fastest car on track. We're just getting a replay of Andrew and Ethan Warren as they came into the final chicane, and Andrew having to take to the outside and cutting across the AstroTurf on the inside of that chicane there. But yeah, up this front of this pack, he's really been plugging away, putting the laps down, and he's caught this pack quite dramatically, and it seems like he's got good pace in that car. Would be interested to see if I think he would be really, I mean, he knows he's got good car speed in that car at the moment, but we've seen how well the undercut works in these V8 Supercars as he's just trying to push it to the limits at the moment. And it is early to pit, but I think a couple of guys might think about pitting now to get themselves out of traffic. And I think with the pace that Brady Myers has been showing over his competitors, the mobile side with Brett Luxton. Oh, there's contact as they come down the straight. And that is very lucky that they both managed to come to terms with that. Brett Loxton, though, he didn't look like he'd come to terms with that very well. He darted right back behind that TTL Esports car and might even look to push him through that final chicane there. Both managed to come out the other side, still looking forward and in fourth or fifth, but the other way round. And I think that Brett Loxton is not very happy about what's just happened there, because he is really trying to get a little bit of an overlap with the TTL Esports machine. We will get a modem simulation replay of that for you so we can just understand. And that's what I saw before he cut in very tightly behind that. So see what happened here. So a little bit of a rub on both ends for Brett Loxton there. And they had a little bit of a rub. And I mean, I don't think Brady really could have been more further to the right there. And he definitely had enough overlap. So I'm not entirely sure what Brett Loxton is kind of carrying on about there, but you know, he doesn't have the benefit of seeing a replay like we do, and it is kind of entertaining to see that kind of driving in a sense. So we'll let him plug away, and hopefully he can catch back up to the head of this train, which is still led at the moment by Jake Bird, after he managed to get through on Sam Blacklock. But Dane Warren still has a commanding lead at this stage. It's grown out to now just about 4 seconds as they come across the line at the moment. He's been pulling about a second, pardon me, not a second, but about a tenth. And Brett Loxton is going to pit early. So just as I was talking about coming in for the early pit and going for a bit of an undercut, Brett Loxton has decided that he's going to do it, and Sam Blacklock has unfortunately had to slow down through the final chicane, and he will be moving himself to the back of that field. Now, this is very good for Brett Loxton, who's just come into the pits. He's effectively just gained, I mean, everyone's effectively just gained quite a bit of time on Sam, but he's done probably even more so than others by being in that pit lane at the moment. Not the Logitech G Altus Esports car down on the pit lane as well. We're now having a look at Luke Harvey, who's being followed closely by Brian Borg in the Premier Esports Racing Team car, who's had a bit of a quiet race so far, although Brian Borg actually up 7 positions at the moment, so hasn't been too quiet for Brian Borg there. And just noticed as well on my timing that Chris Coxhead drop out of the event earlier in the race. So we did Scott Stolowski as well, who's obviously suffered some damage from that incident that we saw just a couple of laps ago. Luke Harvey, though, is still continuing around. Front end of that Ford Falcon there, looking a little askew. A little bit of, I don't know, kind of a sideward grin to that car as he comes down into the hairpin now. And Brian Borg, we've seen very aggressive race. Luke doesn't mind getting the elbows out at all, and it'll be interesting to see how these guys battle on very shortly. Something's happened to Andrew Gilliam, I think. We're just having and that was Tyson Williams into the pit wall there, or into the Wall of Champions, pardon me. So this is Chris Coxhead from earlier and Scott Stolowski, so they're all... Oh, right. Okay, yes. Well, that'll do it, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's a miscommunication there between someone who was coming into the pits and someone who was not. Now, we saw this yesterday in the Split 2 race with Ross Rizzo being collected from the lead of the race by, I think it was a TTR car. This has to be one of the most treacherous pit entries because it's essentially in the braking zone to the final chicane, and you can go about 100 odd meters deeper if you want to go into the pit lane. And so the speed difference in the braking zone can be extremely immense, and we've seen quite a few people get caught out by that over the many times that we have come to this track. And unfortunately there for Scott Stolowski and Andrew Gilliam, they Harvey a bit of a mistake into the chicane, and that's going to give Brian Borg all the invitation that he needs to have a little bit of a look. And I suspect there'll be a move down into the hairpin here. Luke Harvey, though, giving as little room as is required, and possibly just shunning Ryan Borg out of contention for a move there. But very nicely placed by Luke Harvey there in the Ace Tennis car.
Yeah, really, really good driving there. So we've now got Dane Warren in to pretty much react to the rest of the field, and just to actually note on those recent pit stops, Brady Myers has jumped ahead of Jake Burton, so effectively second in this race, although Burton's quite far on his heels, but that was very close pit entry for Brian Borg there on Luke Harvey, nearly contact, but luckily managed to pull it up.
Yeah, so Brady's, as we said, he had fantastic pace in that car, so he's done the exact opposite of what I thought he should do, and he's going to actually possibly even jump white. So pretty close, but Brady does not quite come out your race leader. So he's come into the pits and he's come out just ahead of Jake Burton, and he's had great pace in that car. So I would not be expecting that Jake Burton will be sitting on the rear of that TTL Esports machine for much longer, because I think that is probably going to go hunting after Mr. Dane Warren, who's now, has to be said, definitely not 4 to 5 seconds ahead like he was previously. That gap looks considerably less than what it was before that pit stop cycle. So we'll have to see how it all pans out in the next few laps. But what can be said is that Brady Myers was 3 seconds faster in the lane than Dane Warren, and 2.6 seconds faster in the stop. So either considerably less fuel there for Brady Myers, or possibly a longer stop there for Dane. And have to see towards the end of this race how it all comes out. Dane Warren dealing with a little bit of traffic though at the moment. He's got Mario Vlasic just up ahead of him, and this could be a little bit awkward for his race. Those two cars, thankfully for him, diving off into the pit lane, and you could see how much more speed those cars could carry compared to Dane as he was braking to make the apex for that corner. Sam Blacklock, one of the few drivers now who has not pitted. In fact, he is the only car yet to pit. So not many cars choosing to go beyond the halfway distance of this motor race to come into the pit, and Jake Burton continues to apply pressure to Brady Myers, who's looking strong but not pulling away just.
Yeah, Brady's doing a really, really good job at holding off Burton at this stage, and the thing to remember is he was actually pretty much in the middle / rear of that battle pack between himself, Burton, Warren, and also Blacklock. So he's probably saved a little bit more fuel than Dane, who was leading that pack and has burnt probably a bit more fuel. So the obvious thing that he's been a little bit quicker in the stop is of no surprise, but I'd hazard a guess Dane's probably going to have this one in the bag, although this will definitely help Brady in the championship because it'll just help keep that gap as close as possible to him.
Absolutely right, and as we said, Brady Myers did need to elevate himself to another level to keep his championship hopes alive. Definitely better than the 5th place that he was sitting in when we were talking about that last time. So he's obviously been listening into here in the commentary booth and has decided to up his game, and he is doing a good job of that. As it stands, Sam Blacklock has finally made his way into the pit lane as his teammate flies by him down into turn 1, and I suspect that all these cars, but possibly Brett Locks, will probably come out ahead of Mr. Blacklock there, but looks like Loxton to make it through as well. And Blacklock actually could possibly have,
I think he has a stop go.
a speeding. I think he surely had a speeding penalty on the entry there. Well, I might go back and see if we can clock the speed on his entry to pit there, but indeed, and if we'll stop there for, and that's very unfortunate for him. We were expecting him to come in around Loxton there. He's come out considerably further back, so he wasn't. Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. He was doing about 74 as he came across the line there, and pit entry is 64. So I think he has probably picked up a speeding violation on that one. So very unfortunate for Sam. He was running in the top 5, and is now going to have to do a little bit more work to get himself back into that.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a little bit down the order, but he's on fresh boots. He's got some decent pace, so should be able to move up a few more positions and half at least recover what he's lost in that unfortunate pit stop.
He's sitting behind his teammate at the moment, Ethan Warren, and as we've seen, Ethan's to find pace in that car. So he's probably going to get that move done fairly quickly. But there's a little bit of a gap up to Andrew Gilliam, a couple of seconds up the road there. So probably get himself back, definitely up into, I think he'll be at best probably be able to recover to 7th or 8th. I think 8th is probably the more likely scenario there for Sam. What he can do on some fresh Dunlop rubber, and he is obviously a two-time V8 Supercars official series champion, and is no slouch in one of these machines. It has Ethan Warren there in the Astro Gaming car, letting Sam in the Logitech G machine. Cooper Webster, another man who's got some Logitech sponsorship on the side of his car. Been a bit paused though, has his machine in this event, and it's just made himself past Brian Borg in the Premier Esports Racing Team entry, who was tucked up very closely behind Luke Harvey just previously, who's now a little bit further down the road. So Brian struggling with that car at the moment, but Cooper Webster's been doing a good job recovering after a couple of incidents earlier in this race. He's participated particularly throughout this season. He's had some good results, but he's definitely not in championship contention at the moment, is Cooper Webster. I think he might have even be sitting dead 30th for the championship at the moment, but he's still been putting on some really good performances throughout this series, and it's a young talent who's really showing what he can do in these V8 Supercars, not only in the official series, but in Scops as well. And we can see he's obviously got some damage to that car, because Brian Borg has just absolutely dominated him on the straight, and makes that job look easy as they came into the final chicane there. And they're followed pretty closely as well by Thomas Hinz and Greg Sharp, who, in plodding away, Thomas Hinz has a very nice livery on that Sim Racing Channel car as well. So I'm sure he'll want to put some moves on a couple of cars so that he can get a bit of airtime for that one. And always good to see Thomas Hinz out on track and circuit.
Yeah,
but no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, Hinzy's actually doing quite well tonight by the looks of it. He's started 22nd, he's actually up to 16th and got some solid pace on the guys ahead of him, so possibly a few more positions incoming at this stage.
Yeah, well, you definitely wouldn't say no to Thomas Hinz. We've seen him do very well in all forms of four-wheel racing, not just in the V8 Supercars, very handy in the GT car also. And just looking at Greg Sharp, who sits behind Thomas Hinz at the moment as they come down into the hairpin there, and he is starting to close a little bit on to Cooper Webster. They're just a little bit deep into the corner for Thomas Hinz there. We'll see if he has the same straight line advantage that we saw Brian Borg have on the previous circuit of this track. It does look like a little bit of front end damage to that Sim Racing Channel car, and he is definitely closing up big time as they come into the braking zone, but he was just a little bit far back at that hairpin exit to make anything work towards the end there. So Thomas Hinz hopefully can set himself up for the next lap, and I dare say that if he's within a car length or so of Cooper Webster as they come out of that hairpin, he's not really going to be able to do much about being overtaken by Thomas Hinz. And he's got Greg Sharp, another veteran of this series, to worry about as well. Just trying to have a look through the battle packs at the moment. This is probably the tightest pack of cars that we have on track at the moment, with the exception of places for second and third, and also got this battle for Andrew Gilliam and Sam Blacklock, which will be heating up very shortly. I wonder if Sam Blacklock's had just a slowdown there as well because he's had to drop back once again. So we've talked a lot about these slowdowns. We've seen a lot of drivers suffering from them. And it's definitely one of the talking points that we've seen at this track with this car. I remember even last time we were here, we saw so many drivers having similar incidents, and Job Stewart has had a big incident. That looks like front and rear contact, and I suspect the Wall of Champions has bitten another customer there. He's actually not hit the Wall of Champions. He's lost the rear of the car as he came through the second apex there and has spun to the inside wall there. Good to see a modem simulation replay of that, and very unfortunate for that driver. Meanwhile, Thomason's continuing to pursue Cooper Webster in the Evolution Racing Team machine, but still not quite able to get there. And I'm sure that Cooper Webster's struggling in the straight line in that Holden Commodore there, but he's still very fast in the corners, and he definitely knows how to pilot one of these machines very well indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really close between those two, but just seems to maybe have a little bit of an edge over Hinsey at the moment. It's looking like Hinsey's a bit quicker, about, well, not quite a tenth, but about 4 thousandths of a second quicker than last time by on that lap. So it's fairly close between those two, but I imagine Hinsey should be able to just think about it in a conservative way and just eventually just plot away and get the position in the end.
Yeah, I think that will probably be the case. Meanwhile, up at the front, or up towards the rear of the top 10 here, Andrew Gilliam and Jack Boyd coming together on track and looking to get involved in a little bit of a battle here. Andrew Gilliam has been pursuing Jack Boyd for the last couple of laps and has been closing in at nearly 6/10. It was the last time they came round, and as they crossed the line this time by, it was another 4/10 of a second that Andrew Gilliam has put onto Jack Boyd. So he's going to now have to find a way past, and this could open up a little bit of an opportunity for Sam Blacklock, who needed to catch back up to Gilliam as well. These guys now coming through turn number 4, trying to stay to the right and as close to the wall as you possibly can, then down into this very tricky section here. Very sharp right, left, and then a right which extends outwards, but it's kind of so flat on the camber, it's very difficult to get the traction down. And now Brady Myers is going defensive, and there's a little bit of a bump there from Jake Burton, and that's actually going to help out Brady Myers quite considerably, because he was being rubbed just a moment ago, and now he's got about 5 or 6 car lengths over Jake Burton there. So we'll go back to Andrew Gilliam, who's looking a bit too deep on the brakes, and we have seen as well that Sam Blacklock has reined in that gap, which was about 2 seconds. He's managed to recover that very quickly with these guys battling, and Andrew Gilliam now looking very menacing in his Pursuit Sim Sports car as they come down the back straight here at Circus Gilles Villeneuve. Is not able to go down into the final chicane. Great traction on the exit of that corner though, and good mid-corner speed, but Sam Blacklock had the best of them all. Surely not, he's gonna not go through there, no! And Sam Blacklock has gone spinning to the inside of turn number 1. He's managed to actually get back on the track. Oh, he spun it into the wall, and it is a night to forget once again for Sam Blacklock, and he's just managing to get the car back on track, but it's a very awkward spot to be for the Altus Esports drive. We'll get a modem simulation replay of that for you. So we just see these two guys up ahead of him battling, and he got such good momentum coming out of that final corner. Kind of boxed himself in with Gilliam on the left-hand side there, but probably not enough room for him to move down the inside there. Possibly could have used a little a bit of patience there, and unfortunately spinning, trying to recover presumably after really putting quite a lot of heat and energy into those tires, trying to get past those two drivers. So very unfortunate for Sam Blacklock. He'll walk away and look look to come back another day with a better result. Meanwhile, going back to Cooper Webster, Thomas Hinz looking a little bit closer this time by, just needs to nail this braking zone and get some good traction. Cooper Webster's made a little bit of a mistake there in the mid-corner, a little bit of understeer, and now Thomas Hinz has got a much better run, and I think this could be it for Hinzy. He's got the momentum coming up. It's closing. Is he going to pull out? He is. He's finally got the momentum coming down under the bridge, and Cooper Webster is going to have to admit defeat on that one. Nice healthy amount of curb there from Hinz as he comes through the final chicane and has finally gotten that position sorted out. Now Greg Sharp in the Stealth Sim Sports car having a look on young Cooper Webster in the RT machine, and Cooper Webster seemingly has just parted ways with the laws of physics there, and I think that he may have decided to pull over, and possibly the damage to his vehicle was just a little bit too frustrating for him there. So unfortunate to see Cooper out of this race, but the battle for the final spot on the podium, the final 2 spots on the podium, is starting to spice up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still been going on since pretty much the beginning of this race. Well, since the pit stops more or less between Brady Myers and Jake Burton. I believe that Dane's just done the quickest time by last lap, so it's gonna be interesting to see whether Brady can possibly catch Dane. It's probably gonna be a hard ask, but if these two can just work together, they might be able to catch Dane by the end of the race.
Yeah, I think they probably, it does seem like they're probably not worrying about what Dane's doing at the moment. I think these guys are very involved in their battle here. I think Brady's probably looking in the mirrors a little more than he's looking up ahead and worrying about where Dane Warren is, and Jake Burton is just looking to psych out Brady Myers in any which way he can, try and open up a door to second position. Mitchell McLeod battling with Damian Johnston in one of the Gone Rogue Motorsports machines. Little bit uneasy on the exit there. Mitchell McLeod using every little micrometer of space to try and get past that machine, but not able to do so. Carrying good straight line speed is that Gone Rogue Motorsports car, and Damian Johnston will retain that position for the time being. And Mitchell McLeod started this race 25th up into 20th, possibly hasn't moved up through the field as much as I thought we might see. But as I said, so many drivers in practice from yesterday's race. It's not surprising to see so many of these guys with absolutely astounding pace. And this battle up at the front, Jake Burton using a very, very aggressive amount of curb as he comes through the final chicane. And it is very easy, as we've seen so many times throughout this race, to be picking up a slowdown in that chicane. If you just cut it a couple of centimeters too close, it's all over. And Mitchell McLeod now has a run. He's going to have to go around the outside of the hairpin. I suspect that he'll probably go a little wide and go for a nicer, tighter exit with a bit of a straighter trajectory, so that he can really get that 600 horsepower of his V8 down to the ground, and he's done a great job of that. He's going to pull to the outside now. Damian Johnston's going to have the inside line, which is preferred, but Mitchell McLeod has the speed down the straight, and he's going to have to be very committed on the brakes. He is, and he cuts across the Gone Rogue Motorsports machine and takes away 19th position from Damian Johnston in a very commanding fashion there. Great move from Mitchell McLeod. And this battle up at the front of the field, still very close, but Burton's just edged back a little bit in the last couple of corners there. Still looking very, very close, but good to see as well that Aussie Driver Search not only decided to sponsor the official series, but also sponsor one of their obviously participating drivers in Jake Burton. And great to see that Jake will be getting a run once again in the GT86 series this year. alongside another sim racer, Ethan Griggolt, who's going to be participating with Aussie Driver Search in that series as well. And if you'd like to get yourself into an Aussie Driver Search car, there are two ways that you can do so. You can either win the Aussie Driver Search iRacing official V8 Supercars Championship, or you can jump online and have a look at some of the packages that they have. Now, I'm pretty sure that they're all sold out for this year. I could be wrong. Only way to find out is to go and check it out. But having been through the program myself, I can tell you it's an absolutely amazing experience, and one that I thankfully will be taking up again. And it's been a fantastic program to partner up with sim racing, as we've seen how so well sim racers can do when they jump behind the wheel of a real racing car. So we do appreciate Aussie Driver Search for partnering up with the official iRacing V8 Supercar Series, and we encourage you to go and check out their packages if you'd like to get behind the wheel of one of their cars as well. Meanwhile, Luke Harvey continues to battle on with Corey Preston, who's had a little bit of a quiet race comparatively to what we would normally see from Corey, but he's up a couple of positions, so he can't be disappointed with that. And looking to battle with Luke, who I'm sure they have battled many times on track together, as they have participated in so many races together. Haven't seen them dueling on track for a while though, so it'll be interesting to see what they'll be able to do with each other here. Corey Preston probably not carrying as much pace this round as we would expect. We've seen him be particularly quick at some tracks throughout these official seasons, but some tracks as well, he's just not quite hitting the mark in terms of pace, but then he's actually able to finish the races. So it seems like when he's got the pace, he can't finish the races, but when the pace isn't quite up at the pointy end of the field, he is able to bring the car home. So see if Preston are able to bring this one home, and that's a sad looking Altus Esports car, and it looks like Mitchell McLeod has reined that in fairly quickly after getting past Tyler Blackburn and Damian Johnston, and looks like another position for Mitchell McLeod. So while it's taken him 28 odd laps, he has finally made up a few more positions in the very late stages of this race, has Mitchell McLeod. And I dare say with just a couple of laps to go and the state of that Altus Esports machine, that Mitchell McLeod will be moving his way past Sam Blacklock. Unfortunately, neither of these guys really in championship contention, but both very active in the V8 Supercar official series. Is Brady Myers, bit of a mistake, and that could open up. Is that a slowdown? It was very, very close to being a slowdown if it wasn't, but a little bit of a lockup into the final chicane. And with 2 laps to go now, Jake Burton's been there or thereabouts for such a long time. I wonder if the pressure's just starting to get Brady a little bit, as Jake's really starting to push some of these moves a little close on the rear bumper of that TTL Esports car.
Yep, looked like Brady just touched the grass on the outside into the brake zone of that final chicane there, and it just unsettled the car a little bit too much. Burton's still been hounding the rear end of that TTL Esports car. He's not given up at all since the pit stops, and it's going to be a very, very close race to the finish, I reckon, and whoever comes out on top is going to have done very, very well regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, well, Brady obviously started a little bit further down the field than he actually just started behind Jake, so he would be doing ever so slightly better. Jack Boyd had an incident, looks like, with Andrew Gilliam, who was recovering from a slowdown, and oh, that's an awkward one from both of those guys. Probably, I'd say, a little bit unnecessary. Yeah. Ooh. Well, let you at home judge for yourselves what you thought of that one. Andrew Gilliam there clearing a slowdown, and Jack Boyd. Meanwhile, it's on for position number 2 in this race, because Burns in the wall of champions, and luckily he's championed through and has recovered. Wonder if he's got any damage to the Watts linkage on that car. It was a fairly aggressive rear hit there. We'll get a replay, modem simulation replay of that for you. See, got some good speed coming down the back straight there on the outside. See what happened here. Ran it nicely and just car got pretty unsettled. He probably just overcorrected ever so slightly in the middle of that. Not surprising he went for such a big save on that though, up on 2 wheels. And feeling a slide like that is never going to feel good. Meanwhile, Luke Harvey, Corey Preston still battling on. Corey Preston very close to the rear of that Ace Tennis car now as they come through turn number 2 and up the hill. Very difficult section of the track to get the power down there. And Luke Harvey doing a great job of doing so, just pulling ever so gently ahead of the JMSR Racing car there, and Corey Preston's just tapped the wall. As I was saying that, very easy to just carry a little bit of understeer through that corner with the lock differentials in this car, and he's just tapped the outside wall there. Jake Burton has not had the momentum that he had last time around to get himself up onto Brady Myers, and as they come across the line in just a couple of 100 meters time, he's only going to have one more revolution of this circuit to get the job done. Looks like he'll be walking away with a podium nonetheless, but he wants to be the man behind the leader, and looks like he's not carrying any damage to that car. He's still able to maintain pace behind Brady here, so it's going to come down to if Brady can keep it all together for this final lap. He's kept it alive for the last 30 laps, so I can't see why he's not going to keep it together on this one. He's just got to hit all of his marks for a couple more kilometers, and he will bring it home in position number 2. Jake Burton is not going to let him forget that he's there, though. Running a little bit deep into turn number 4 there, or turn number 5, and Jake Burton using up every little bit of the track there, getting the left-hand tire onto the grass down the straight, and just clipping the outside grass there. Managing to keep it all under control though. Nice and smooth through the chicane for both of them there. Brady Myers still looking very strong. And unless there's a big late lunge here down into the chicane, I suspect that Brady's going to have it all done. And it looks like Jake Burton is going to have a little bit of a drift special coming out of that hairpin there. But a man who has driven flawlessly all race, and albeit with a little bit of a slow pit stop, has managed to maintain the race lead throughout this entire event. And he shows off a little bit with a little bit of a drift in his Logitech G Altus Esports machine. It's Dane Warren who takes out round number 11 at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada. Jake Burton will come home position number 3 behind Brady Myers, who did a fantastic job to defend from Jake there. Brett Loxton ended up a little bit in no man's land, but ended up 4th position, and it looks like Marlon McMullen was pretty happy with a 5th position there. TTL Esports will have 2 cars in the top 10 this evening, with Jackson Susan-Harlow coming in 5th. It's not done between Brian Borg and Corey Preston, though, into the final corner. And around the Corey Preston, great job to keep the car there. And great job of both of those guys to come through the other side. Very tight chicane at the end of this lap here in Montreal. We'll get a modem simulation replay of that, because that was definitely worth seeing between those 2 drivers. So Corey Preston for JSMR Racing goes to the outside. Brian Bull for Premier Esports Racing Team on the inside there. And Corey Preston turns in just late enough to pick up a little bit of a double tap on that curb there and rocket his way into position number 12. And Sam Blacklock, I'm just going to keep with the replay now, because Sam Blacklock lost a position before the end of the race as well. I have to say, if he's run out of fuel coming across the line there, it does look like he's run out of fuel as he's coming across the line, and tried to get it over, and just luckily for himself, only lost 1 position to Mitchell McLeod there. So few incidents throughout this evening, but it was not as dramatic for some as it was for others. Those slowdowns really affecting a good portion of the drivers this evening. But it was Dane Warren for the Logitech G Altus Esports who took home round number 11 here at Circus Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada. He's followed up by Brady Myers, 5.5 seconds close to further down the road. Jake Burton came in very closely behind him as well, let off on the last lap. Brett Loxton came home in 4th position. Marlon McMullen worked his way up into 5th. Jackson Susan Harlow for TTL Esports came home in 6th position. Bit of a quiet evening in terms of camera time for James Scott, but he brought his Evolution Racing Team machine home in 7th. Andrew Gilliam continues a streak of good performances by coming home with a top 10 in 8th. Ethan Warren in the Astro Gaming Altus Esports car came home in 9th position, and Jack Boyd for Gone Rogue Motorsports rounded out the top 10.
In 11th, we have Luke Harvey, followed by Corey Preston, who just edged Brian Borg through that final chicane to take 12th over Brian Borg in 13th. Thomas Hins will hold on to 14th in the end. 15th, Michael Taliancic in 16th. Mario Vlasic crept up. Mitchell McLeod 17th and 18th. 19th, Sutton Clock, unfortunately, after what appeared to be running out of fuel, possibly a slowdown. Tyler Blackburn rounding out the field, and then the rest of the finishers: Damien Johnston, Kirsten Smart, Luke Page, James Duckworth, Zach Baker, Cooper Webster, Job Stewart, Tyson Williams, Scott Sosowski, Chris Coxhead, and James McKee.
Well, that rounds out our 31 car field for the race here, round number 11 at Circus Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada. We thank you so much for joining us on the iRacing Esports Network. Did you enjoy the racing tonight? I know I did, and it's always good here on the Monday nights. If you thought the racing was pretty good, give us a big fat subscribe on the iRacing Esports Network. If you wouldn't mind heading over to SimSpeed TV as well and giving us a subscribe there, that would also be greatly appreciated. And don't forget to leave a like on this video as well. We do thank you so much for joining us here on the iRacing Esports Network for round number 11 of the Aussie Driver Search iRacing V8 Supercar Official Series. Thank you very much once again to Cameron Dance and to Jake Kennedy up in the TV booth for bringing us all the fantastic pictures that you saw this evening. And there is plenty of action still to come up, Cameron, and I'd appreciate if you would help me out here because I currently do not have access to my mouse and cannot see what fantastic action we have coming up on the network later in the week, but there definitely is some great action coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of action coming up on Wednesday on the SimSpeed Esports Network. We've got the final round of the Rallycross at Iowa Speedway, which will be very interesting to watch. And then shortly after that, we've got the Sprint Series Australia from Nürburgring. Thursday, we've got the final round of the Oceanic Sim Racing Formula 3 Championship from Laguna Seca. It's fairly close to the title fight, so it'll be very, very interesting to see how that goes. Friday, we've got the Australian Online Supercar Championship at Imola for the 650, one of the other Enduros this season in the championship. Saturday, we have the Majors Series that's right, Sebring 2 hour with the Camel GT cars, and then next Monday is the final round of Season 2 for the official iRacing V8 Supercar Series at Imola. So, going to be very, very action-packed week and going to be very exciting.
Yes, there is no shortage of sim racing here on SimSpeed TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much for joining us. We have enjoyed thoroughly bringing you tonight's entertainment. We will be back next week for the Aussie Driver Search iRacing V8 Supercars official series on Monday evening. We look forward to your company then, and until then, stay well.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?